Hold on. 2 seconds now. I'll just see if I can get the video. Yeah, there we are.
Hey, Will. Long time no see.
How's things? You good?
Yeah, everything's going good. How are you?
Yeah, good now, man. Sorry about the last time there.
No worries at all. So last time before we got cut off, you were talking about you get the opponent switch. You have 3 or 4 weeks to prepare for it. So it's not absolutely last minute, but how did it change your training overall, getting, to be honest, a completely different opponent?
Yeah, in terms of technique in training and the things I was drilling, things changed massively. Um, Jotko is the kind of guy you're going to have to stalk a lot more. You're going to have to go forward a lot more. He tends to try and outpoint people. Um, and he throws a lot of feints. He throws a lot of you know, techniques that don't really have a massive amount behind them, but look as if they might be threatening. Whereas Akhmedov was completely different. He was the type of guy who would come at you and he would bring everything when he came. So one guy was kind of stand off and wait, touch, move back, wait, try and pick your moment. And you'd be pretty confident that he's going to come. With Jocko, I feel like it's a fight you're going to have to come for him. Um, and it's about stalking, but not being silly while you're stalking.
And so how do you
So
see this matchup playing out?
I see myself stalking him and hurting him. That again, always in a fight, there are so many opportunities to capitalize on what the other guy's going to do. And I'm confident that I've drilled the things that I need to do to be able to exploit the holes that he has. And I'll capitalize on some of those. Could go a lot of different ways, though. There's a lot of holes there. And I'm not saying he's a bad fighter. I think he's quite good technically in a lot of ways. I think he's very good at not overcommitting to anything. But at the same time, if you make it kind of a position where he has to do something a little bit drastic, he seems to do those type of things. That could be on the ground, that could be on the feet. So, I don't really predict fights, but I'm going to put a lot of pressure on him.
And so have you taken some time to look at all the fighters in the division, or is it mostly just we're just going to go one fight at a time?
So previous, when I knew I was in the tournament, but I didn't have an opponent, I was just watching everybody. Everybody who I thought would be there because we didn't have full confirmation of the roster. So obviously I knew Rob Wilkinson was going to be there. I knew Thiago Santos was going to be there. I watched a lot of the two lads because they're kind of in my eyes, it's right, you want to win this, you're going to fight those guys. And I watched a lot of them. And I even with Jocko now, this is probably the most analytical and kind of the most video work I've done. But with the two boys, you could see that there's a much deeper threat and a much more robust skill set where okay, you make that mistake, that's going to be a big problem. So it's cool to have watched these lads and then to know what you can do and know what they can do and to kind of feel oh, I've got some aces up my sleeve here. But again, look, I want those opportunities and I get those opportunities by winning this fight. And I'm not at all overlooking this fight. This guy's good. He's not, I don't see him as being the biggest threat in the division, but at the same time, he's a damn good fighter. He's beat a lot of damn good fighters. So I'm going to get in there, show what I can do, show what Will Fleury's all about, and get the ball on the road. And hopefully we get to fight Thiago Santos soon enough.
And I find it really interesting too that everybody fights on the same night. So are you going to be locked into the fights before you and the fights after you?
Again, it depends how it goes on the night because who knows, even you could be warming up and they might have a stream there, you'd be able to watch, maybe you won't. So I'm not going to go out of my way to be able to see other people's fights. I can always watch them afterwards. I'll know the results by the end of the night anyway. The main thing is I go in there and I perform as best I can on the night, smash it, get the 6 points, and then look for what's afterwards.
And so, I'm just going to be honest. I feel like right now, when people talk about this division, they're mainly talking about 3 guys: Thiago Santos, Rob Wilkinson, and Josh Silveira because of his background in American Top Team. So do you feel like right now, maybe not for the fighters because fighters don't really overlook other guys, but in general, do you feel like you're underrated right now? Like people are somewhat overlooking you?
Hugely. But it's on me to go and improve that. So look, I kind of feel like they're bringing me over here as in it's a token Irish guy, whatever. they're going to find out it's something very, very different. And I'm very excited to go in and show that. So look, I don't like, it doesn't really bother me that people are overlooking me, but it feels like a huge opportunity. And like, again, ball's kind of in your court, like being the underdog, being the guy who's like not really hyped. It's a much better place to be because for most of my career, I've always been a heavy favorite going into all my fights. And there is that expectation, like, oh, you're going to dominate from start to finish. And like, I've fought some pretty good guys. And yet, like, you know, if they have a moment, people are going, oh, well, your man had a moment, you know? And you're like, right, but like, I dominated 95% of that fight. Whereas when you're the guy who's expected to come in and dominate, like Jotko, he's a UFC vet, pressure's on him. You know what I mean? Going into that fight, he's supposed to win every minute of the fight. What happens when I start smashing in the first round? Oh shit, now your heart rate's up. Now it's a different fight. Now it's like, oh man, this guy's legit as fuck. So I love this position. It feels very like, it's very different to where I've been other places, like, you know, at different times in my career. This is the first time I've really come in as like somebody who wasn't rated at all. And I can feel that, but I really like that feeling. And to be honest, look, I feel like when I go in, I make this statement and go in and perform the way I know I can perform because I will. Things are going to change and there's going to be a lot more hype around it and all that. But like, I'm nearly enjoying this. I'm nearly enjoying just like coming in under the radar and being like, okay, you don't know what this is, and I'm going to show you. So this feels like a huge opportunity. You know, it's a nice place to be right now. I like it quite a lot.
Yeah, because it's almost like, you know, I know you have very high expectations for yourself, but when it comes to other people, they're just kind of like, oh, you know, we don't have much high expectations.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Everything, you know, is going to just skyrocket your marketability, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. And I think like as well, it's a bigger deal when you come in as somebody who's not expected to do well and smash. If you're like, oh, he's a very good martial artist and blah blah, and anybody who has looked into me kind of knows that's the case. But I feel like even the way the PFL have sold me is a bit like, well, he's just some outsider Irish guy. He's coming over. Grand. I love it. Bring it. Like, you know, as in sell me as that. You'll see what this is. And it's pretty exciting to have that point, like as in to say like, or to be able to kind of come in and be like, here's what I am. And to know, like, look, I've been putting a lot of effort into this for a long time, man, you know, and my main thing is to go out there and like do yourself a little bit of justice. But by doing myself justice, I feel like I can win this $1 million. You know, I don't see anybody there who like has a better skill set than me, and anybody there who like maybe some guys have a little bit more physical attributes. Like I've only been light heavyweight for the last year, but overall, as a fighter, okay, come bring your game. I'll bring my game. We'll see who does well.
Because of all the work you put in, do you feel like this is destiny? Do you feel like this was meant to happen? You're supposed to be here, and this is like going to be your breakout moment in your career?
Well, even like today was my last day of training in the gym, and like the amount of people who came over to me like after training, because you know we kind of got like a bit of a send off, and it was cool. But a lot of people just came and were like, "This is the right time for you, man." I could feel it, as in like everything's clicking with you. And it's not like before this, it was like, oh, everything wasn't clicking. But it is like, look, none of this stuff phases me. I've gone everywhere in the world. I've fought fucking South Africa and Jordan and, you know, in the States before. I'm an extremely experienced martial artist without even seeming as experienced as I am. And even like the length of time I've been training, I think is kind of deceptive. And even like the level I'm at. Like, look, I train with a lot of guys who are in the UFC, and like, it's kind of like, God, man, how am I not making anywhere near as much money as these guys? Because skill set wise, I'm a little bit above all these guys, you know. But doesn't mean anything if you don't go in there and win these fights. So the main thing now is get in, win it. But it doesn't feel like pressure. It just feels like opportunity. It just feels like, okay, lovely, I'm finally getting this chance and I get to go in there and show what I am. So yeah, it kind of like, to say destiny, I don't know if I'm somebody who really buys into this whole destiny thing. I think you make your own path in life. And a few times, like, I've fucking had opportunities and not fully exploited those opportunities. And now I think, thankfully, because I didn't know if I'd ever get a chance like this again, but I knew that I was going to work towards this as hard as I fucking could for as long as I could. And now I'm still in my absolute prime and I'm getting this opportunity. So it just feels really right. It just feels like, okay, you've got this chance. Go and get it. And like, in a way, I'm just really enjoying the fact that, I get to go in there and show what I am. Because I know I've worked to be this. I can't not be this. Even on my worst day, you put me in there, I'm gonna perform. Like if you fucking break my legs and tell me I have to go fight, I'll put on a good fight still. But like I'm going in there, peak my pretty much the peak of my physical attributes at this stage. And even like skill set wise, I don't think I've ever been better. So okay, let's get in there and see what Will's all about. And that seems very, very exciting right now.
Besides yourself, who's the most dangerous fighter in this division?
I think Rob Wilkinson, to be honest. A couple of years ago, that would have been Thiago Santos. I still think he's a great fighter. I wouldn't dismiss either of those guys' skill sets at all. But overall, I think Rob Wilkinson has a very nice stalking style. Couple of holes, couple of little opportunities that you can see here and there. But if you look at his overall game, and again, we haven't seen a massive amount of grappling, but you can tell from his UFC fights, he's got a decent bottom game, and he's technically decent everywhere. But he's not somebody who's going to blow his load too early. He's not like Thiago Santos. You kind of feel like if you draw it out of him, you can get him to a point of exhaustion relatively quickly. And now, surviving that storm, as in when the guy comes, he comes with a lot. So you got to be very certain that your defense is shored up. But at the same time, you can pull that guy into a dogfight and make him blow his load. Rob Wilkinson's a smarter fighter than that. The path to beating him is a little bit longer and takes a little bit more thought, if you get me. So he'd be the guy right now who I have the most respect for, skill set wise.
And so this will also be the first year that they're doing the PFL Europe series. Was there any sort of discussion of you joining that tournament, or was it always the American one?
Yeah, they were originally putting me in the PFL European series, and I assumed there was some sort of an injury or something happened, but I'm delighted that I've had this chance instead, man, because the top prize for that was 100,000, and 100,000 is no joke, but this is $1 million, and that's legit life-changing money. That's the opportunity to kind of decide what you're going to do after this, and even just to have freedom in the way that you live afterwards. So that's huge. That's absolutely massive to me.
Yeah, and that was literally my next question. How would this $1 million change your life?
To be honest, I've said this with a few people, but on a day-to-day basis, I think I would live in a very similar way. I'm hopefully I'd be property prices here are crazy, but hopefully I'd be able to buy a house. But also, even just having that, it means that you do have a degree of financial security. And then what I want to do afterwards is a lot more up to me than up to the market, or where I lie financially. So I'll have a little bit of choice and a few options in life, which is massive. And then the other side of it, as much as the opportunity to earn money is exciting, it's also the fights that this will open up and the opportunity in my career. I've been obsessed with this stuff for 12 years, man. And I've had very little career opportunity in those 12 years. I felt like I was stifled a lot. And this now seems like, okay, if you go in and smash down this door, it's open. And the eyes are there. And even the fights are there. And the ability to be able to go out there and show the martial artist you are. I'll get to do that this season, but I'll get to do that afterwards as well. There's super fight, me v Thiago Santos, if we don't end up fighting each other this season, that could be a huge fight. I know who I am and I know what I'm at. Look, I'm Irish, I have fucking natural character, you know what I mean? You put a mic in front of me, I'm going to throw it away. But I kind of think that, this thing could have been huge 5 years ago, but nobody ever really exploited the opportunity. And I have the skill set and I have the confidence and the, ability to talk to be able to do this. So I'm not saying I'm not mad to go out and fucking be some shit talker or but I'll be me. And I know what I am. And I know I'm pretty fucking entertaining. So if you put me in big fights, I'll sell those fights. And that opportunity is feels big as well. And I think even anybody who spends any bit of time around me, even there in the gym today, I get that everyone gives this huge fucking send-off thing and it's right. But I'm one of those characters that once you've been around it for, a couple of weeks even, you know this is very different. You know this guy's on a different path to 90% of the people even involved in this sport. And, you know, I'm not prone to like massively shit talking myself up, but that's real. That's very much who I am. And I do the work to be that guy. And I want to show that rather than talk about it. Because I can sit here and fucking talk to you about it. But I want the ability to get in there and just show. I know, hey, this is what I am. This is what I've always been. So let's get this shit show on the road. Come on.
And so I just have 2 questions left. They're more of general questions.
Sure.
So far, how has your experience been dealing with PFL, dealing with, you know, the higher ups, the PR people, all that? And how would you compare that to your time at Bellator?
Very different so far, like very different relationship. They're a lot more personable. I find they kind of treat you much more normally, like a human. Not to like, look, you know, Bellator were good to me financially. I got a very good contract with them. I had the ability to fight in Europe and earn good money, which is rare. So I appreciate that a lot. And I do think Bellator are doing great things. And I think they have a lot of great fighters signed to them. But in terms of the opportunity I felt within my career fighting with Bellator, it seemed like you're going to fight in Dublin. You might win a fight. It's not going to mean much. And in 6 months' time, you'll fight in Dublin again. And maybe the odd time, they'll put you somewhere else. So I fought in like Rome, Milan, and Oklahoma, and then Dublin 3 times. And like their main thing was like, you're fighting in Dublin. And even with the guys they still have signed, if you're Irish, you're fighting in Dublin twice a year. So in terms of career opportunity, this feels a hell of a lot bigger. But I would appreciate the fact that like Bellator in general, a lot of the people I dealt with on a daily basis, I kind of became a little bit frustrated with because I felt like I'm not going to get what I want out of this. But they weren't bad. They weren't like, you know, I got well paid for doing what I did. With the PFL so far, and I've only fought with them once, but when I got over to Cardiff, you know, it's very much like, what can we do for you? Everything okay? If you had any like questions or even anything like small, they were big to sorted and they're very like decent, helpful folk. That's been my impression so far. You know, ask me 4 fights in and I'll give you a much better idea because like so far I haven't had a massive amount of experience with them, to be honest.
And you know, you kind of mentioned the same thing before about like being added to the PFL division and kind of just being that Irish guy. So although, you know, I know you represent the country proudly and it gives you a lot of opportunities, is there somewhat of a small curse to it where, you know, because you're so right about the Bellator, they have a certain amount of guys and it's like, listen, you're going to fight every time we go to Dublin, but most of these guys, you know, like you, I want to fight for a championship. I want to fight in other countries. I want the big opportunities, but you're kind of just set in stone as that, oh, you're a Dublin guy.
So I feel like Bellator wastes the opportunity that they have to exploit the Irish guys. So look, obviously there's a big domestic audience here for MMA. People love MMA in Ireland now. Bellator do a decent job of exploiting that. But they could also build these guys. So like, look, they've brought James Gallagher over, but we have a lot of really good fighters here. And even the PFL have done well with who they've signed so far. So like, there's myself, there's Nathan Kelly, and there's Franz Malambo. Nathan and Franz are also fucking brilliant fighters. They're really, really high level. You know, Nate's on an absolute tear. Like 3 years ago, if you'd asked me about that guy, I would have said, you know, he's a decent, solid fighter. In the last 3 years, the way his skill set's improved and even the way his mindset has improved and the journey he's on, it's genuinely inspiring watching that guy and how much better, like even the physical and the mental improvements that guy's made in the space of time he's been training with us. It's been like, okay, that's what's possible. Why can't you get that much better as well? Like, as in, if you're here and that guy's here and he's coming up, why are you not? Boom. So like, I've taken a lot from looking at his, you know, approach towards things. But then Franz is like,
Yeah.
Franz is probably the most underrated guy in Ireland, you know, genuinely, and I'm including myself in that because like I get a good bit of credit for doing the things I've done. I think Franz has done incredible stuff. Like he's the first Irish world champion, and it never really gets talked about. You know, he won the IMAFs in 2015, and then he went and knocked out the first 2 guys he fought, and he's knocked out a bunch of guys since, and like really high level fighters in fights he was kind of not supposed to win. And it's just whatever way the media don't pick up on things or whatever it is. The guy won the Copa Combate. That was his last fight, actually, would you believe, in 2021. So he wins this tournament, smashes everybody, like beautiful fights, really nice technique. He's a really high level boxer, like really, really lovely hands, lovely movement, beautiful to watch. And after winning this tournament, the guy can't get a fight for about 8 months. And then he finally gets a fight lined up, which is for the Copa Combate belt, and he's not even getting that well paid for that. And the guy pulls out on him, and now he's been waiting, what, a year and 4 months to fight? It's crazy. It really is bizarre. But he's in the PFL tournament now. He's in the European Bantamweight tournament. There's some other really good guys. He's actually beat one or two of the guys in that as well. Dominic Wooding and oh god, who's the other? There's a guy Kershad who used to train with us in SPG, who's also in that tournament. And like, look, Franz is very high level. Like, he's a very strange kind of an athlete. He's just like, he's got power. I was actually only warming up with him like 3 days ago. We were just going in to do a bit of sparring, and the two of us were kind of warming up at the same time. So we started moving around together. I've got about 40 kilos on the guy, okay? So like, he's very light, long bantamweight. And we're just messing and we're moving and we're kind of like fainting jabs. And he comes over the top and just like, because we're kind of like relaxed, over the knock. Ooh, you know, this guy's got legit power. Like, I was sparring with a heavyweight that day and a high level heavyweight boxer that day. And the guy didn't hit me as hard as Franz hit me in the warm up. Yeah, so that's the level of like skill and power that guy has. And even you watch any of his fights, you see it. It's just like, as soon as he connects with somebody, they look different. They're like, oh. And that was my first time. Like, I've cornered Franz. I've been different places with him. Like, he's a great dude. But I've seen this reaction happen. That's the first time I've been the guy feeling it. And you're just like, oh, that's a different power. That's something. Like, even I was sparring with Cedric Doumbé there like last December, and it's the last time I felt that. We were like, that's a lot more powerful than it looks. You know, you're like, okay, that looks like just a normal punch, but it's not. It's just like, whoa, something different there. Like, you know. So I think they've done very well with the Irish guys they signed. And basically my whole point is, if they kind of like get those guys out there. Now I see that they're promoting Simeon Powell a lot. I see that they're promoting Dakota Decheva, the girl from Manchester, a lot. And great, get them out there. Make them as big as you can. But ultimately, there's real talent in the guys you've signed. So if you exploit that and you use that and you're smart about how you do it, there's a massive fan base here. Let it go. Like, just let us, just like, look, I'm getting the opportunity to go and improve it. That's the biggest thing to me. So I don't need them to like make me massive in a way. I can make myself massive as long as you give me the chance to, and they're giving me the chance to. So I really appreciate that. And that's the difference with Bellator and them. It's like, when I win these fights, no matter what, I'm on that path to $1 million. With Bellator, you felt like you could win 5 fights in a row. You're probably going to fight some mid or unranked guy next. You just don't know. It's like you beat somebody, it doesn't really have any significance. You don't know where it leaves you in your career. Whereas I know if I win these fights, I know exactly where I'm at in my career. And if you win that $1 million, like, look, the story here is going to be fucking incredible. Like, you know, so I'm just like, I'm excited that I'm on this path, but I also think that the PFL, if they're smart about it, they'll really get behind Franz, Nate, and myself. And look, they're coming to Dublin for the championship fights. It shows that they have that intention anyway. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and one more name I just wanted to throw in there because, you know, all due respect to Bellator, I have a lot of respect for them, but they really dropped the bag on Lee Hammond too. He was there for a fight. I mean, that dude's got all the potential in the world. And, you know, I don't know the full situation. I don't know, maybe he didn't want to be there, but that was another guy that should have been a superstar for them.
I think Lee was very cautious to get involved because he thought that I don't want to end up fighting in Dublin twice a year, and that I don't want that to be my career. He's someone who's talented enough and he has the mindset to go out and pursue what he wants. I love his attitude. He goes and he trains wherever. Like, you know, he's all over the country. He's all over the world. Training, getting the best stuff out of things. He's really bad. Like, anytime you talk to Lee, you just get this, whoa, like, I've been learning this. Let me show you this. And it's brilliant. And then he's asking you all these questions like, you do this. Why do you put that there? Why do you do that there? And here, come here, tell me what you think of this. And like, you feed off that passion. And even like, anytime I've talked to Lee in the last 2 years, it's all a bunch of questions, but like really interesting, intense questions. And then like a really intense 40-minute conversation of just like breaking down the technique. And that, like, that's that guy's brain. That's his focus. I think he's done a really, really good job of not overcommitting to anything. And now look, he's just been in the Ultimate Fighter. I'm sure he'll do well out of that whole situation. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in the UFC and how he gets on. But I think what he did was smart. It was the best option for his career.
And so last question I have for you. On April 1st, you get ready to walk out. Your name pops up on the screen. It's got the big Irish flag. I'm assuming you're going to have one around your shoulders. What does the flag of Ireland mean to you?
A lot. Like I said, I represent a culture. Like I said this before, it's an island nation. And because we've been in like again, you can go back into like what is Irishness, because Franz Malambo moved over from South Africa when he's 9 years old. That guy has like the strongest Dublin accent I've heard out of any loadie in the gym. And in a way, that's what our culture is. It's getting people on board. It's it's friendliness. It's that thing of like, sure, it doesn't matter. You just have a sense of humor about everything. I've lived there other places in the world. I lived in London for a little while. I lived in New York for a little while. Nowhere ever felt anything like Ireland, and I miss this place so much when I leave it. And being Irish, like, it's kind of hard to sum up in a couple of lines what being Irish means to me, but it is that thing of like the sense of humor trumps everything. It has to, because like we've had such a dark history, we've had such a fucking messed up past in this country, and I know a lot of places have, but the way we dealt with it here, it seemed to be true, just joking about it and making light of it. And in a way, there's something really beautiful about that, because it's very powerful. You can deal with anything in life as long as you have a sense of humor about it. And I feel like when I'm in this place, when I'm around the Irish people as well, I feel a lot better about any of the issues that I'm dealing with, and I feel a lot better about being alive. The only, like, obviously the weather's shite most of the time, but like, I kind of think our sense of humor comes from that too. How can I put it, man? I love being Irish. Like, I love being around Irish people. I feel very fortunate to be born in this island. And I'm also like, we're an incredibly supportive people. Like, I even notice it myself, like when my friends are fighting, I'm like, everything is on the line for me as well as how I feel. But I know that it's the same for them. And I look at other cultures and I don't see that. And I'm really happy that that is part of our culture. And look, it hurts. It hurts when somebody loses, when one of your best friends loses and you're completely invested. It's not a nice feeling. And you kind of sometimes are like, why am I doing this to myself? I'm killing myself here just to be disinvested in somebody else's life. But that's what we are. That's our culture. And we're incredibly, like, you look at how we support our soccer teams and our rugby teams, and like our fans travel all over the world just to get a glimpse. If you put an Irish guy on a card, man, you'll be amazed the amount of people who show up for him, and I just think we have a really beautiful, unique culture. And like, obviously things are becoming more and more monotone all over the world, but within Ireland, we seem to have preserved some degree of real difference to the rest of the world. And it's nice to be around. It's nice to be here. And I plan on living here until the day I die. So I'm glad I was born on this island, basically.
And that's all I have for you today. Anything else you'd like to say before we part ways?
Just want to thank everybody who helped me in training for this. Johnny Walker, Conmore, all the lad. I've been working with this guy, Owen Plug, from the High Performance Boxing Team. Just the effort that they've poured into me, and obviously John as well. John has been huge. And yeah, I'm incredibly excited to get out there and get this done. And Kieran Davern's the guy who's coming over with me to Las Vegas. He's the coach in SPG Tullamore. He's a very high-level grappler. He's been on Polaris quite a few times. And I'm very, very grateful for Kieran for coming out there with me. And I'm very excited about what we're going to do together. So that's basically it, yeah.
And that's all I have. Will, I really appreciate your time, man. I can't wait to see you on April 1st. Can't wait to see you in the rest of the PFL season. I hope for all the best for you.
Thanks, man, Jake. Appreciate it, man.
Have a great rest of your day.
Oh, cheers.